formal. Feel free to interrupt if you have questions, but we're mostly going to show off the platform we're using to keep track of everything, because this project has a lot of moving parts, and then talk about where everything is at the moment and how people can contribute. So do I have the power to screen share?
I do.
Cool. Sweet. All right, so you guys should see my Canvas screen. Yes. Okay, one nod, yeah. And so one thing that over the mini projects that I've worked on with PSA is that folks who are involved often have a hard time knowing where things are at, what we're doing, who do I talk to, where are the files, what's happening. And then on the project management side, it's hard to keep track of everybody because there sometimes can be hundreds of people and labs involved. So we're testing out right now using the open source version of Canvas. So Canvas is a learning management system, much like Blackboard or Moodle, and there are others, those are just the ones I know, that allows you to like kind of run courses. So we're going to treat this like a big classroom. And this is our own version of Canvas. It's hosted on our server that we're also going to use for this project once we get to the big part of it. And so we own all the data. It's not related to, if your university uses Canvas, it's disconnected from that. So it's all of our stuff, which means when you get our invite email, you do have to create your own account. So the current workflow is if you send me a message or post on our Slack, if you're interested, I will put your name on our list and we'll get you enrolled, because you can't auto sign up for this. It will send you an email inviting you to the Canvas website where you create your account. And then you'll get a second email inviting you to the class, which is the project. And you have to accept both of those. And then you'll see everything. So I'm going to log in as me. And so you'll be able to see this course in your dashboard. And one thing that Savannah has done for us is really great, is created some tutorials on how to do everything in the Canvas area. But there's a bunch of information about how do you change your profile so it has all of your information, or if you want to change your email, so you changed institutions and I want to keep track of everything. Changing the notifications. So I am sick of listening to all this discussion board. How do I turn that off? That kind of thing. And that can be found if you go into the class. And then the main page that pops up is just our proposal information and the conference video that I did before, right after this got accepted. But most of the magic is under here under modules. And I'm going to make this just a little bit bigger. There we go. And keep hitting admit here. The Canvas how-to guide is linked here right on the top. And so what it does, oops, sorry, is it opens here in this little new preview window. This is meant to be ADA, well, that's America. It was meant to be disability friendly. So they try to keep everything encased into Canvas, which can be a little annoying. So just hit this pop out button and it'll take you to the Google Doc. And this has the ability to comment. So if you ever are just like, this is really worded very confusing, you should word this better, you can leave us a note and we'll fix it. But it's got the whole, like, why are we using this? How do I get started? How do I update my settings? Send an email, update your profile. So I won't bore you with all these details unless you have questions, but I think the biggest one is the notifications. Right? So how do I make it where I don't get an email from you every 6 minutes, right? Which we don't try to do, but we have some suggested settings. Okay. That's here under modules. Our announcements page is so that you can keep up with all of the things that we have sent before. And this is really meant for people who join the project like in the middle and want to know like what has been happening. And so the announcements will be sent through email. You probably didn't get these through email because we posted them before we added anybody. But once we start sending like big announcements like, hey, this paper needs reviewing, or hey, this part needs done, you'll get that as an email, and it'll have a link for you to just come right in and make comments or view. So you can kind of see what we've sent in the past. Let's see, modules is meant to be where all the information is held. So we've got the global project information. This is a project that will eventually be about semantic priming, but the most important thing when it comes to projects with words is to get the words right. So what we're working on right now is finding ways to make this truly cross-linguistic, where the words are matched across many languages. And I have some good ideas, but it needs some help. So this tells you more about the semantic priming part. Okay. We have a discussion board for frequently asked questions, which so far is nothing. So that's exciting, but I'm sure we'll have questions when we get there. You, as a student in the class or a lab, can add new questions. You can add new discussions. So, you know, whatever you need help with, this is a good way to get a hold of us quickly. We also on Slack, but this will keep it. We'll probably take your question and post it over here just so that everybody can see it. Back to modules here. I have a GitHub website if you're into looking at all of the source code, so you can keep track of what's going on, or how-to guide. And then before I get into what the pre-projects are, let me finish showing you Canvas here. And as assignments, I can't relabel some of these things because this is meant to be for teaching, but assignments is like things that you can do to contribute. So I could relabel it, I would label it contributions, okay, which we did up here. And so within each project, pre-project part, I have 3. We have ways that people can contribute. We'll go over those in a minute. And they have nicknames just to keep them straight for me. So we have words to many languages, pre-project, which is helping us make, it's a play on word to vec, if you're familiar with that software, and building appropriate languages so we can calculate appropriate models for each language so we can calculate similarity so that we can cross-match across languages and get stimuli in each one where the data set truly has the same words with similar relationships in each one. Subs to strudel, which is going poorly, but I will say hopefully I can get some, and I saw Maria snuck in as well, some good thoughts on for that project, which is a play on Marco Baroni's strudel model using the subtitle projects, and then a paper on power. So how do we power studies that don't have a hypothesis test, and why n equals 30 is maybe not our best idea. And for each of these, they have different contributions. And let's say if you just picked one of them, like the spelling one I got done last night, each one has a link to where and how to contribute. And then if you were actually a student, give me a second. You could say, okay, I have spell checked some of the words. So you would say, okay, click submit assignment. Thanks, I helped out. And then you'd hit submit. Okay. So for that assignment, I am now telling you that I contributed to this part of the project. So months from now, when we get to the actual paper, we have a list of everyone and how they've contributed, because this is sometimes really hard to track. It's hard to make sure that you are included. And so by using this system, we are keeping track in our grade book, basically, of what everyone's been able to do. And so we'll have new ones pop up once we get to the paper part. So once I have a working draft, I'll put it on there and say, I'd love comments or revisions. You would say, hey, I commented on the Google Doc, thanks. And then at the very end, we'll just be able to create our authorship lists from here. It also helps know like how you can contribute. So one of the problems with the PSA is that we often have the same 8 people who know each other and don't use the network as well as we could for things that you have the skill sets for that we just don't know. And so I'm really trying to open this up where it's not just my like 4 people that I know working on these main projects, but everybody can contribute to a piece of it. So it's not just our lab collect the data, but if that's all you want to do, that's fine. So just giving people more opportunities to help with a broader view of the project. And then the other things that we have are the discussion board. And then I don't remember if we have people turned on. Do we have that turned on, Savannah?
Yeah, we do.
Turned off student view. Yeah, okay, so you'll be able to see the people who are involved with the project, right? And so if you need to contact one of us, you can see who the project admins are. So Savannah and our PM who we just met yesterday is gonna be Kelly. And so you'll be able to like contact folks if you need to. So you don't have to remember my email, you just click on my name. And then I think there's a way to like contact.
Inbox.
Inbox. Savannah's better at this than I am. Clicked inbox. Oh, which I can't see because I'm in student view, but you'll be able to type in an email. There you go. So if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt or just type in the chat for us. But if we don't, I will tell you about the cool stuff, which is what's actually happening on this project. If I can remember how to get back, here we go. There we go. It's like class at night, all the crickets. Yeah. Okay, so what I need the most help on are two components that are simple tasks. So if you have research students in your lab that just need something simple to do, this would be great. If you just want to help do a couple data sets, that's also great. But this words to many. So what happened was we were really interested in this paper that recently got published in Behavior Research Methods that the editor actually sent me like right after it got accepted because he was so excited about it, by Van Paradon and Thompson. And what they were doing was taking the subtitle projects, which are this large corpora across 50, 60 languages of movie subtitles, which is really cool because that's more naturalistic language than, like, let's say Wikipedia or the Brown corpus, if we want to pick on a really overused corpus. And, you know, they've published several papers on the corpora doing frequencies. So the subtitle projects informally are word frequencies, but the corpora are downloadable online. And what they did was they created word-to-vec models, which are just kind of computational models of what language should be, to kind of dumb that down as simple as possible. The biggest issue is that these models were created all with the same parameters, which to me is an assumption that I'm not sure I'm willing to make, that all the models should have all languages have the exact same computational parameters. Previous work by Pawal Mandera and a couple of folks have already kind of shown that maybe that is not the best assumption. So what a student of mine and I are working on is rebuilding models and testing them to figure out what model might be best for each language, because I don't want to make the assumption that something like Farsi has the same structure as French, for example. And the task that we need help with for that is just creating data sets that are all in the same format to test our models against. So we build these models and then we use them to predict some linguistic data. And we have a little presentation on that we gave for SCIP this last year, the Society for Computation in Psych. And if you want to learn more about it, but the to-do is data set formatting. So I have that here listed under how to contribute, but here's the actual assignment. So the how-to page, we'll just have them all linked, so you can always look at that. But right now there's only one thing to do. So I'm going to show you how this one works. All right. So we go to a Google Doc here, and we've got some of Savannah's lab who's been helping us pilot test this. It's going okay. They've done a good job. The other thing you'll open is this datasets files link, which has a link to a whole bunch of datasets. And then there's actually a how-to guide as well. So all the tabs open. And let's see here. I'm just going to walk through this. But everything I'm about to say is also in this particular file. So I'd find a file that hasn't been done yet. And what are these files? Well, they're data sets from mostly behavior research methods that we web scraped, don't tell Springer, that are all open at this point because BRM's policy is after a year, all of their articles are open. And of different linguistic data. We're most interested here under variable dictionary in predicting age of acquisition, which is a rating of how, what age you think you learned a word. Arousal, concreteness. So these are just ratings of how arousing the word is. That sounds terrible, but it's just meant like how much kind of feeling it gives you. Concreteness, how concrete or abstract. So concrete words are like things you can touch, like dog. Abstract words are things that are more like truth. And then Maria can correct me if I've done that wrong. Dominance, familiarity, imageability is how well you can imagine what it looks like. Intensity, typicality, and valence. And we picked these because they're the most popular available data sets, especially arousal, valence, and dominance because of the popularity of the ANU norms, which have been done, I think, in so many languages at this point. So they're just the most popular data sets available that we're going to use our models we're building to predict these values. And so a good model should be able to predict these values, is the idea. And this data is taken from some previous work in our research lab that is just a big old list of available norms. And so you pick your favorite one that hasn't been done. So I'll just pick the first one that hasn't been taken here. So Alvarez. I can usually figure out what article it is by looking at our list here. Of course, this would be the one that I can't, right? Am I just missing it? Or yeah, here it is. Okay. So this one may not work because it says it's about line drawings over here under type. Okay. And if we keep scrolling, there's two important parts, the language. So this one's in Spanish. And then way out here, it has those variables and which one you might expect to find in that data set. So hopefully there's some age of acquisition norms in one of these files. So I'm just going to plop my name here. And honestly, it's all the same paper. They just have it in 4 separate files. So then I would go find that file, which Savannah told me how to do this.
Sort at the top.
Your top, oh here. So for some reason it sorts in a very strange order that we can't totally figure out. So if you just hit sort by name, they'll come up alphabetically. I don't know what OneDrive is doing, but all right. So I click on the first one. Let's see. So this first one does not have any word data in it at all. It's just a table. Easy enough. That's the kind of thing we don't want. So I would say, well, it's in Spanish and there are no variables in it. And this is why researchers should not be allowed to create their own documents because they're in so many formats. That's the main problem. Okay, so I'm gonna look at table 2. Closer, right? So we actually have frequency, familiarity, imageability, and typicality. So this looks really great, except this is a correlation table. So still not the raw data that I'm interested in finding. Oh, sorry, too many windows open. Spanish, done. Try for the third one here. Maybe this will be ratings. Nope, still a correlation table. We might have to pick another one. Fourth one's a charm. Okay, better. Sweet. So this is the kind of data we're interested in finding. Okay? Now, I don't know if I know exactly why the numbers are so large, but that's not something I would expect people who've never seen these before to know. And that's something that I'll look at on my end. But you're looking for this kind of data where it has the word and not sentences. So we're looking for individual words. And one of those scores we're interested in, familiarity, typicality. So AOA, cool. Now we want to make sure it's only on one sheet. And so I would download this file because you can't edit, unfortunately, in the way I have to share this with because of my university. So we're going to download and I'll just open it. And now we'll wait. Excel at this point, I feel like opens as slow as SPSS. There it goes. Cool. So the main thing we're trying to do with these is format them so that they'll have a somewhat consistent structure. You don't really want to delete any columns. So if it had a bunch of extra columns for complexity or there's a bunch of other stuff, mean, happiness rating, we wouldn't want to delete that. But we do want the first row to be the variable names to make this easier to read. So I'm just going to delete these 2 rows. And then we're going to normalize the variable names as well. So we can leave these 2 alone. I'll fix those to how I want them. But AOA is one of our variables. So I'm going to go back over here in my variable dictionary, and I've told you to label it AOA. So we're going to label it AOA. If it doesn't have any other information, if it's the mean or the standard deviation, I'll show you one more here in a second. We're just going to guess that it's the mean. So _m. And this one's a little odd because the numbers should be ages. So I'm not 100% sure, but I'll figure this one out later. I don't expect you to know that. So just guess that it's the mean, okay, if it doesn't say. And this is what you'd submit. Okay, so you'd save this file. This one was not too hard. You would finish labeling it over here. So it's in Spanish. I found AOA. That's all you have to write because I'm going to do the other columns. I'd go back to Canvas. If I was a student, I would hit submit assignment. So let me show you how this looks. Student view. Hit submit, browse, grab that file, okay, hit submit. And then on our end, now in the teacher view, it will show me that you've submitted this file. Okay. I'll go in and I'll look at it. Most people have just been providing a little bit of feedback like, hey, this looks fine, or hey, don't forget, relabel this. That's been the biggest issue of the people who've been testing this for us, is just making sure you relabel the column names as the variable we're interested in. Because what happens is once we're done, we're putting all this information on GitHub, and we're just going to use some code that we've written to open each one of these files, grab columns that are labeled with the variables we're interested in, and use them to predict. All right, so let me show you one more, and then I'm happy to have questions if you guys have them. A more complicated one that somebody just finished. Not this one. Now I've forgotten which one it was. Not Jared's. This French one. I think this one. Yes. So what happens sometimes, because people are not thinking about machine readability, they're just thinking about human readability when they make these documents. I know Jack can attest to this because he's put together some big data sets like this, is they've made these cute tables, right, where they have the cell here is meant to represent both columns. Right? We're trying to make these machine readable. So what we are suggesting people do is, instead of having sort of this double table format, we want the final data set to say concreteness mean, concreteness standard deviation. So we're not getting rid of any data, we're just restructuring it so each column has a unique name. So this is what the final one from that one looks like. Here, I'll just quick show you how I did it. As essentially, oh gosh, that's tiny. My old lady eyes here. Concrete mean, concrete SD. So now we don't need this top column. And then the same thing here, context available M, context available SD, valence and arousal. So you end up with one row of column names and not multiples. So we would get rid of this when we were done. If you want to look at several of these that are finished, it's available on GitHub. I know we have like 600 links to things, but we're just trying to provide you like, here's a how-to guide, and here's what one looks like when it's done, and here's some extra suggestions. We tried running some code on this, but there are so many different formats. Some of these are in PDF, which please shoot me. Some of these are in text. Some of them are CSVs. Some of them are Word documents. So they only get worse from here, I think. But the GitHub page has all of this, and I'll link this better because this is all hidden a couple links deep, and I'll update that. But the GitHub page has like the finalized ones. And so I've been uploading them as we've been finishing them with their reference name so that we can hang on to whose work this is for keeping track of citing everything. So that's one of the big main pieces. Does anyone have any questions so far? Savannah, have I forgotten anything?
Not that I can remember, so I think you're good.
I do have one question. It's about the AOA.
Sure.
If it's a subjective AOA and an objective AOA, should we call it subject S_AOA and O_AOA, or just AOA in general? Because I know some people in the age of acquisition literature are so picky about this. That's
true.
Why.
Yeah. Maybe that's why it's in like big numbers. Because I was like, I expected AOA to be like 8, not 175. Yeah, let me make a note. That's a great point. I will make a note to see. I just tangentially use AOA every once in a while, so that's a good point. Yes, so I think this easiest solution is to have, if it says to do it here, so A or AOA S, and then I'll just have to add some to our how-to guide to make it clear which one's which. Or if you don't know, if it doesn't say and it's not clear, just do AOA without the extra modifier. That's a good point.
Erin, can you also put under the variable name in parentheses subjective or objective? Because some people are just going to put like,
oh, right.
oh, I'll choose O or I'll choose S randomly. So.
Good point. I honestly forgot that there were 2 of them. That made me bad. Right. Did I do that in the right order?
Nope.
Here. There. Fixed. And one thing I'd really recommend is the use of the discussion board, because if you aren't sure, just ask. I would do these, but there's hundreds of them. So like, might as well share the love. It'll get done much faster if there's several of us working on it, or your students. You need things for them to do. What else? There was one other thing I was thinking of. I don't remember. And the main goal is to find as many of these across languages as we can find, because there are some languages that are easy to standardize or test, like English. There's so much data in English, right? But other languages are more difficult for us to have a metric to measure against, like Arabic, or anything that's not a European language can be kind of hard sometimes to find good norms in. And these we just started with because they were the easiest thing. Behavior Research Methods publishes a great deal of these, and I already knew that they existed from our previous work, so we started here. And then once we're kind of done sorting through all of these, we're going to search out data sets that maybe we don't know about for languages that we don't have something to measure against. And then we're also using, there's a folder somewhere that I've already claimed that has what the data sets that Von Paradon also used, just to make sure that we cover the same dependent variables they had. But these overlap a lot. All right, so that's part one. Part two is this subs to strudel. So the part of this project is as sort of a backup plan to calculating similarity. I've really been interested lately in ways that we can leverage the power of these subtitle projects to give us information that is extraordinarily difficult to collect. And so strudel was this idea from Marco Baroni that, and colleagues, we could create concept feature norms like zebra has stripes, dog has a tail, by extracting them from text pieces. And had a really great paper like 10 years ago that people I feel like have mostly ignored. And so I'm trying it. It's going okay. So essentially what's happened so far is we've taken the subtitle projects and we've broken them down into these kind of pairs of potential concepts and features, but it's not 100% clear at the moment how we can sort through that kind of data. So we took, for example, the English subtitles and ran what's called dependency parsing on them. So this just grabs the dependent relations in a sentence. So like this adjective modifies this noun, okay? Or this verb has a noun modifier, like a direct object. So we just grabbed all of those, which is a lot of things, and picked a set of them that are part of what the strudel algorithm was doing, and except that it's just very messy. And so I'm taking the English norms that I have right now from a previous publication and trying to reprocess them computationally based so that we can manipulate some of the processing parameters. By that, excuse me, too much coffee this morning. What I mean is we can say, well, I want to look at every word that every participant ever listed. So we asked participants, hey, what is a zebra? Okay. A lot of people wrote stripes, right? That's a type of horse in people's minds. It has legs, it has a tail, right? And when we publish these norms, we cut out what most people consider the noise at the bottom, right? So we say, well, they have to be listed at least 5 times, or at least 16% of the time. I know we changed the rules so many times, but there's a lot of singletons, of individual pairs, or words that come up every so often. And so it's hard to tell if my idea for this project is kind of not working because I'm only looking at the very top of what participants actually list, or if because this idea is just too noisy. So what I'm trying to do is reprocess my data where we can control, like only eliminate when only one participant listed it, only eliminate when only two participants listed it, which in our published data set is a little bit harder. And so this is an easy task, especially if you have some students to spare. It's just literally spell checking. But there's like 14,000 words to spell check. So if I could get some help, that would be awesome. And then this project also was presented at SCIP last year. If you are interested in this idea of what is strudel and how does that work, I have a video for it. Now let's see. And I finished this last night, and that's why I'm like half awake today. But the spell checking here, as long as you are, proficient in English, you can do this. So it's just literally coming in and tell me what word you think it is, so that we have two raters on these, and it's not just me with one eye closed saying what I think each word is. And so you just come in, pick a column. I don't want to do column 2 because I judged column 1, so I'm person 1. But over here I might be person 2, that kind of thing. So don't fill in both columns. Is the main idea. You're one person. And then you would just say, okay, my initials, and uninhibitedness is probably uninhibited. Except I can't spell. Let's just copy it. And so that would be my guess for what I think that word should actually be. So this column here is the word that's misspelled according to our popular spell checker, like we're using the one that Firefox uses. Everything out here are all of the suggestions from the spell checker. And it might be the first one or it might be the second one. It isn't always the first one. The first one's usually a good close guess. And so you would just guess which word do you think it is. Okay. We're gonna have 2 people rate each one so that we can arbitrate if there are disagreements. So just do some rater reliability. And I would say in general, most of these are usually the first guess is the best guess. And then there are words that are just not either in English or are places or phrases. So avant-garde here, right, is that's French, I believe, right, phrase. And they're responding probably to the word fashion. And so we wouldn't spell check that. We would say, okay, it needs to stay how it is because that's a phrase, it's just not in English. Right, so that happens. The most common thing is people either running words together. So know-how here, that's 2 words. Okay. Or adding an affix that makes it not technically an English word. So this uninhibitedness, right, isn't technically a word, but the ness part is an affix that I could add to words, right? So we would just take that off. So it's uninhibited is what they mean. And then there's some that you might just not be sure. Is this addict or abduct? Okay. And if you just aren't sure, you could just say not clear, NA, like it's not obvious which one it should be. Or take your best guess and we'll see what people think. So if we can't decide, we'll just leave that word out. And once we're done with this, the idea is to see if the processing type can give us a clue as to the best functionality for this strudel algorithm. So is there a certain level of frequency that these dependent pairs have to occur for us to include it? So we're really trying to find a good spot to test if the algorithm can be applied to all of our data sets. The other thing I would love help with, I think I saw Maria is still here, is that I know she has words like this in Italian. If I could get those from you. So we can try this against Italian as well.
Yeah, sure.
Yay. I wasn't sure if you had all of them down into the singletons. Yeah, cool.
Yes, I have in Excel format. So I think, yeah, it
Excellent.
would be useful for you. I already eliminated the idiosyncratic features.
Do you have those somewhere? See, that's the part that I'm stuck on, is that I'm trying to decide if the idiosyncratic features, and we can discuss this, maybe I'll send you an email after this, but like the issue here is like we have the top layer from the publication and the correlation between the pairs is not that great. And so I'm trying to see if maybe it's because I don't have a good metric from which to know how to cut out the noise at the right level.
Okay.
And I could probably send you a longer email with this, but the next step after we do English here is to try this in a couple of languages, because there's at least 5 or 6 that have these types of norms where people have just been asked, what is a word? Right? And they've written out what they think. The hard part is finding data sets that have like every single word that someone ever listed in them, because most of us cleaned them up before we publish them. That's subs to Strudel. I hope this one works. This is the paper that I'm not sure if it will actually make it anywhere, but it's worth a try. The ultimate goal is if we can extract concept feature norms from text, one, that's way less messy than dealing with people. This work is very difficult because it requires a lot of this kind of hand holding processing wise. And then we would have this in languages that don't have this kind of work already done, which is a lot of them. So trying to really expand, one of my big goals is cross-linguistic analyses. So, you know, we get too much English. We need more of the other languages. Cool. All right, the last one is a power project. So in the proposal for this project, the question was, how many people do we need? You know, and like, I feel like we've kind of gotten by the skin of our teeth using n equals 30 for a long time, but maybe that's not the best answer anymore, power-wise. But it's hard when you don't have a hypothesis. This is a data set building a venture, not a hypothesis test. And so we proposed doing this kind of sequential power, accuracy, and parameter estimation that Ken Kelly has written a lot about. And I would love to publish a paper on just that idea of powering to the stimulus rather than powering to the test. So let's make sure we've measured our stimuli well, and then the test is what it is. But at least I know that each item that I've used has been measured appropriately. And we can argue over what level appropriately is. But ways to contribute here include giving us a data set that we can try this on. So if you have data with many participants who've done a rating or some form of cognitive task, it doesn't have to be cognitive, but probably will work better. So I did this example on the English Lexicon project. But so any kind of response latencies, if you have like the Stroop task, the flanker task, there are plenty of things, the AOA ratings, if you've got a bunch of different approaches to the power task. I'd love some data sets that have either been published or are more meaningful than linguistic norm data sets. I'm trying to expand so that I can show that this applies to a lot of research and not just our little corner of the world. If you're really good at R coding and want to run some simulations for me, I'd be happy, especially on your own data, or if you want to help me write. So I don't have the coding and the writing one quite well formulated yet because we were just, you know, kind of getting started on all of this, but essentially I'm going to start a Google Doc and I'm going to put in an outline, and then people, if you want to help fill in sections, if you're really interested in this idea of power or provide some code, just send me a message and we'll start talking, because that one's going to be a more specialized task. So trying to show you guys we have a real range of things people can help with. So if you're like, I don't understand any of this power stuff, but I can spell check, you can contribute to that project. And on all of these, including the larger one, the ultimate goal is to have the papers, once we have the papers ready, for people to help with reviewing them, providing feedback, especially if you're not in this field. Because I have a friend who's published with me several times on this who always forgets what these things are, who just goes in and goes, no one knows what this means but you. And so like adds in helps us make sure that we're not only talking to one audience, right? So you can go in and be like, I don't know what this means, right? What is this typicality thing? And so by at least being in the system, you'll get notifications like, hey, this paper is ready. If you want to contribute, here's your chance and here's how you can help. So there'll be opportunities if now, like the timing now for me is really bad because X, Y, and Z. Cool. In 3 months, we might have a different opportunity that you can help with. Okay, I think that's everything. Savannah's giving me the yes nod. Cool. All right, so I'm gonna hit stop. Perfect. And then if anybody has any questions or thoughts on any of this, I'm happy to answer them.
Also, is everybody in Canvas? Like, are we all onboarded into Canvas?
That's also a good question. One yes. I love this feature. We use this to vote in faculty meetings. It's like thumbs up, thumbs down. Okay, I didn't see that there were chats.
It's
the
just
Spanish one. Is that all those concept feature norms in Spanish? Is that the oh gosh, his name just jumped right out of my head.
Vivas.
Vivas.
Yeah.
It's a Vivas norms.
Yeah. George, that's where.
Sorry.
That's okay. No, perfect. Yes, I think I have that email like waiting to send because I'm pretty sure that this data set is also the reduced one. For better or worse, God bless Kim McRae, but we're all really bad at like not giving the whole data, right? Like, oh, we're gonna eliminate the bottom.
There is one of the Excel sheets that has each item and their associates.
In this data set,
Yes, do you want me to send it to you?
I've got the page open. 1 second. I don't love the way Springer has this formatted because it puts the most interesting piece, which is the actual data at the very bottom. So I'm just trying to find where it is hiding on this page. Or maybe it's not on here. Appendices. Oh, there it is. But it has like full counts for all of them. Yeah. If you have it in a usable format, I'll take it. Otherwise, I'll just make sure I go through this article. Oh, is this it's this table. Yes, the like word by feature table that has all the zeros and stuff. Is that the one you're talking about? If you were responding, you were muted.
I've downloaded the table and now I can't find between I can find the article, but I've downloaded the table. Maybe I can send it.
Yeah, shoot it to me. I
The table has the noun, the English, the category, the Spanish features, and then the frequencies they were produced and other things.
Sweet. Perfect. Yes, I will take that. Because the ones online are like, unfortunately, not my version of Excel friendly, but if you have a formatted one, I will gladly take it. And then if not, I can probably, if it doesn't have, I'll have to look at the article again if they eliminated any, but if it doesn't have them all, I'll probably shoot him an email and just be like, hey, somewhere in the depths of your computer, do you have like all the singletons included. Cool. Thank you.
Erin, I was just wanting to ask about, because I was just looking through one of the databases, and someone like you has this one, and she included semantic transparency, lexeme meaning dominance, and it's for compound words, which is going to be leading to another question. If there's any additional variables that are not included, that are not mentioned in the variable dictionary, should we still include them, or should we not?
Yeah.
That's
so
one. The second question is, because it's a compound word, should we also look for any of the respective lexemes of the compound words as well?
I think so. The first part, yes, let's leave them in there, because I'm hoping what will happen, like, Jack's really great package has a huge data set that he's tried to like put things across English in, but there are limits to the size of things that you can do in CRAN. And so I've been using this releases idea, and I've written some functions for this package we're going to put together at the end of the project that'll allow us to grab data sets. So if you say, give me everything in Spanish, we'll be able to like pull Spanish and like have it do this work in the background, but it won't be officially part of the package per se. So we don't want to eliminate anything because somebody else might be interested in it, even if we aren't. But we want to normalize as much as possible. So the answer is yes, leave them in. For the compound words, as long as there's a column that has the like word, that's all it matters. I think that answers your question. I don't need the, like, if the word is in the subtitle project as a compound word, it would be good to have data on the compound word to compare against. Does that answer your question?
Partly. It's just because, when you have a compound word like airplane, and if we have something like air and plane separately,
right?
I know UHAS doesn't include this, but some database such as Kim et al. 2019 includes the individual components of the lexeme.
Right.
Should we then include and look for it, or there's no need and let's only focus on the compound words?
Right. Both. Because like in the subtitle thing, what will happen is the word airplane will come up as the compound word. And, if we have a data set that has it as its compound, we can match to it to help see if it's predictable. But then obviously air and plane come up separately. And if we have those lemmas individually, that would also be predictable. So if we have it, great, but I don't know that we have to like search it out unless you just know of a data set that you don't see on mine listed. The nice thing about all of these is that since they're open access now, we were able to get them. So some of the newer ones are a little harder. I think it's a 2019, so that should be open, depending on where they published it. I think I'm walking around with this. Don't have to search, but if you know of a data set I don't have, I will take the recommendation to add it.
Okay.
That's fantastic. Okay. So I feel like I was like dancing around your question.
No, it's fine. You answered really well.
Yes, more data is better. The tricky part on this set of projects, honestly, is compound, like associative pairs, like peanut butter. Right, so that's my favorite one, but or rock and roll. And so they come up in these Word2Vec models kind of together, but most norms are separate. So I think that's kind of a limitation to some of this work, right? So Word2Vec is supposed to capture phrases better, but we're still essentially boiling it down to individual words at a time, but that's just a rant for another day. Others. Well, I don't want to waste anyone's time today. I appreciate all of you, and it was a good crowd to start because you mentioned some things I haven't thought of. So if you have more questions or thoughts, feel free to email me or post them on the discussion board, and then I will gladly take the Vivas norms, and Maria, I will email you about your Italian words and see what we can come up with.